Out on the vast, flat expanse of the African savanna, every movement can be detected from afar. This sheer, unforgiving openness dictates the terms of life and death, creating a harsh environment where concealment is rare and physical distance is everything. Predators naturally exploit this terrain. Lions utilize stretches of low vegetation to identify isolated targets, moving silently to close the distance. This diagram shows how a hunt is actually triggered. When a herd moves as a uniform cluster, they are safe. But the moment an animal loses its rhythm and lags behind, a gap opens up. That precise deviation creates a temporary vulnerability. Yet, even when lions successfully isolate a target and begin their pursuits that seem completely under control repeatedly fail. Apex predators are frequently caught on camera abandoning their hunts and retreating when confronted by unified prey. Survival on these plains depends on the highly coordinated manipulation of physical geometry. The first phase of defense happens before an attack even begins. Prey animals create a visual perimeter, using calculated distance to deny predators the element of surprise. In the arid lands of South and East Africa, Oryx maintains strict, calculated distances between individuals. They position themselves to ensure overlapping 360-degree fields of vision, keeping their long, straight horns pointed outward toward any potential approach. Giraffes push this visual perimeter even further. A mature individual uses its 15-foot height to observe from afar, spotting threats from distances that make stealthy stalking impossible. This schematic demonstrates the mathematical failure of the ambush. A predator's approach vector relies on exploiting a blind spot. If it hits a solid wall of overlapping view cones, the advance stops. The lion is forced into a direct, highly visible confrontation. By holding this strict spatial perimeter, the herd neutralizes the lion's initial advantage, forcing them to abandon the approach entirely and walk away. When a group of lions does manage to breach that outer perimeter, they attempt to squeeze the herd into a confined space from multiple directions. Buffalo respond to this multi-directional threat by deliberately tightening their formation. They reduce the support distance between each other and pull the weaker members inward, forming a dense physical wall. The herd uses this intense spatial compression like a coiled spring. They allow the predator's pressure to build up against their dense ranks until it reaches a breaking point. Then comes the collective thrust. In an explosive moment, the entire compressed herd unifies its direction of movement and advances directly into the lion's space at high speed. This sudden reversal of kinetic energy introduces a fatal risk for the attackers. The force of a head-on collision with a 500-pound animal shatters the lion's coordination, forcing them to separate and scatter. By absorbing the attacker's momentum and redirecting that spatial pressure outward, the herd turns the predator's own tactic into a defensive weapon. The ultimate crisis occurs when a lion successfully lunges, grabs an individual, and eliminates the spatial gap entirely. In this scenario, animals like African wild dogs and zebras have a proactive reaction. Rather than scattering in fear, they immediately close in on the attacker and aggressively collapse the remaining space around them. This vector graphic maps multi-directional swarming. The central predator is suddenly surrounded by fast-moving dots. They dart in from 360 degrees, striking blind spots. Under this chaotic pressure, the lioness cannot maintain a safe anchor. Overlapping strikes force her to release the target and escape. When their inner space is completely compromised, the predator is left with no stable position to hold. Overwhelming their personal space forces them to choose their own survival over the kill. Across all of these failed hunts, the deciding factor remains consistent. Individual speed and brute force are secondary to the persistent, coordinated manipulation of space. Whether it's wildebeests forcefully using their horns to re-establish a gap, or a herd of elephants proactively tightening their ranks to move as an organized wall, commanding the physical board neutralizes the attack. A surviving herd functions as a single fluid entity designed to command space and protect its collective rhythm. On the harsh African savanna, initiating a confrontation is meaningless if the predator cannot control the pacing and the physical parameters of the fight. Victory rarely belongs to the one who attacks first. It belongs to the collective that dictates the distance, maintains their rhythm, and stands firm last.